Microtransactions. In recent years this has become a dirty word, with consumers getting more and more frustrated with extra costs in their games, adding on to the initial price they've already paid. So how did we actually get here? 20 years ago, when you bought a game, that was it. They were expensive, but most of the time you were guaranteed a ton of hours of gaming and replayable content. If you wanted more content, you had to wait for the sequel, which could be 3 or 4 years away, or even 15 years. As time went on, the idea of expansions emerged, add-ons to games that basically provided a bunch of new content and features. A good example would be Diablo 2, which came out in the year 2000. The expansion, Lord of Destruction, came out a year later and personally remains one of my most played games, and it added a whole new 5th act. There were 4 acts before and you ended up with basically a quarter of the game added on again. 2 new classes, hundreds of new items and crafting recipes, and even a higher resolution. This became a popular method from Blizzard for their games, providing large content add-ons years later at a price that was less than that of a whole game. As we moved into the digital age, people stopped going out and buying their games from the store, preferring to buy them online and download them using programs like Steam. With this theme, developers started releasing downloadable content, known as DLC. These were bigger than regular patches, but usually not really big enough to qualify as expansions. Look at Borderlands 2 for example. Back in 2012 it was released as a standalone game, and since then it's had 9 major content packs, the last of which was released over 2 years later in 2014. These added new areas, new missions, weapons and stories, and characters as well, and these would take a few hours to complete each. There was also 3 major content packs which added new characters and increased the level cap and so on. That makes 12 DLCs over the last 2 years from its release. And you can get the Game of the Year edition, which costs around £35, which is more than the basic $19.99 price. This leads me into defining microtransactions. Now, microtransactions really started as something for free-to-play games to actually make money from. The game would be free to download, so the developers would make money from the in-game purchases instead. The most popular of this type of game would be, of course, League of Legends. This gives you a stock of heroes available to play, which rotates each week. It's a free-to-play game. But if you want access to all of the heroes permanently, you need to buy them individually using real-world currency. And a lot of other games have followed this suit. For example, games like the Old Republic started off as a pay-to-play model like World of Warcraft, but realized it wasn't providing popular with their fans. So they moved to a free-to-play format with certain areas of content requiring passes to access and extra privileges for customers who actually paid to participate. The area where we begin to find problems are the games which offer a random element. There's a lot of Valve games like CSGO, TF2 and Dota 2 which have a lot of in-game microtransactions. However, despite the latter 2 of these games being free to play, there is no content restricted from these games. Players get random cases in these games which can be opened using a key from their store, and inside there's all sorts of different items and cosmetics you could possibly receive. These items are of a different rarity. So in TF2 people try to get unusuals, which add a variety of different effects to their cosmetics. CSGO, there's different tiers of skins for your weapons, leading from basic ones to highly colourful ones. A lot of these items can go for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on the Steam market, or you can actually sell them via different websites on online transactions. This has opened up a lot of questions about the validity of this practice, whether it qualifies as gambling, and if people under the age of 18 should be exposed to it. However, that's a story for another day. Other games though, such as Overwatch, Quake Champions and the like, have also added in the idea of these loot boxes, items you can buy with a chance of getting items back. These companies generate millions, if not billions, from these transactions, and I've contributed my fair share to that across a lot of these games. However, in these games, the items you receive are purely cosmetic. There is no difference in the power of a Dragon Lore AWP compared to just the default skin. Having triple unusual hats on your head in TF2 does not make you stronger than the enemy in any way. No matter what taunt you use in Overwatch, it has no bearing on the gameplay whatsoever. This is where Star Wars Battlefront 2 comes in. There's been a lot of drama and talk about this game over the past few weeks, and to cut a long story short, there are microtransactions in the game. However, these aren't purely cosmetic changes like the previous games we've talked about. These are actual characters and power-ups that are locked from you from launch. Darth Vader, arguably the most iconic character in Star Wars, isn't available to play for you from launch. You either have to play the game for roughly 40 to 50 hours to earn enough in-game currency to claim him, or you can just simply insert enough real-world funds to get him straight away, which could be hundreds of dollars. This means you can get the game out of the box, start playing, and automatically when you're in game there are people playing as Darth Vader because they've essentially bought him and you haven't got access to that. And this isn't even a League of Legends scenario, as by itself Battlefront 2 costs $54.99. Oh, but you can buy the deluxe edition if you want for £15 more to get upgraded in-game characters. So even buying the basic edition, you don't get all of the stuff in-game. Like, what? I know there's been a lot of fallout from this, but I still can't get my head around the audacity of it. A game costing more than a regular title these days offers even more expensive version of the game for in-game bonuses, and then still locks away a bunch of content behind a paywall. People have spent time trying to work out how long it would actually take to unlock all of the content in Battlefront 2, and they've come to the conclusion that it would take roughly 4,500 hours to unlock all of the heroes and content available in the game. To put things into perspective, my most played game of all time is Team Fortress 2, and after 10 years of that game being out, I've played it for over 8,000 hours, so that would be over 50% of the time I've spent playing my most popular game of the last decade in order to unlock all of the content in the game. It's insane. Nobody's going to be able to play that much, that often, before the next iteration of the game comes out. The alternative is, of course, to purchase it using money. And they've also worked out that to unlock everything using finance, it would take $2,100. That's an insane amount of money to unlock content in a game that you've already paid for. This is a game that you've bought from the shelf, bought from the store, that you actually have to use more money to get everything out of it. So there's your choice. Do you want to grind away for a long time, for 4,500 hours to unlock all of the heroes, or do you want to spend $2,000 on doing it an alternative way? It's a ridiculous situation. EA's response was that they wanted the player to feel rewarded for playing the game, unlocking the content over time, and for those of you who don't have the time, to offer a different way to access that content. That response received over 675,000 downvotes, making it the most downvoted comment on Reddit of all time. I mean, the second highest only has 24,000 downvotes, and he literally asked for those downvotes. I can slightly understand the idea of wanting to unlock content as you play through the game. A lot of games do this. Fighting games, racing games. Take a look at Mario Kart. You don't have the entire roster of characters available to you from the start. You unlock the remaining players as you finish cups and play through the games. But collecting coins and finishing tournaments takes minutes or hours, not days of play. Imagine Nintendo coming out and saying, "Oh hey Mario Kart fans, there's a new game incoming. However, you only get to start off as Toad in the beginning, but you can unlock playing as Mario after 40 hours of races." It sounds dumb, doesn't it? This is essentially what EA are doing, making it so mind-numbingly tedious to unlock characters that you end up justifying to yourself that the few extra dollars is worth it. However, there's also these things called star cards, in-game bonuses that are available in loot boxes and such, which make you stronger in-game. This gives a huge advantage to players who spent the money in-game to those who haven't. There's actually a precedent to this. Activision literally has a patent for this form of matchmaking. They match up new players with those who have strong weapons, incentivizing the new players to spend money in-game to get those stronger items, because they just can't compete. And when these players have stronger items, they match those players with weaker players to exacerbate that feeling of power that these new items have. So basically you feel like you're stomping on noobs. But then after a while the game again matches you with even stronger players, so you fall back to the store to upgrade yourself once more so that you can compete with those players. It's a disgusting practice, but it's one that EA has tried to push us here as well. The Backlash has achieved a reply from EA saying they reduced the cost of the heroes to unlock. Sounds good, right? No, they also reduced the amount of currency you get in game, so it still takes essentially the same time to unlock. They also released a statement saying, from launch, that microtransactions would be removed. And a ton of people cheered and applauded EA for listening to their community. These people are also dumb because they didn't read the fine print, and EA will be adding the microtransactions back in at a later date. Presumably when all the bad PR has blown over, people have bought the game and feel that they need to put more money in to achieve the same results. Now, I bought FIFA 18 a couple of months ago after 5 years of not really touching the franchise. What I soon realised was that despite spending over the odds for the game, you still need in-game purchases to keep up with the best. I tried finding streams for FIFA 18 and I was seeing them gamers spend hundreds, if not thousands, on these microtransactions. And despite Battlefront 2 looking absolutely sick as a game, as a single player and everything, I can't force myself to buy it knowing it's exactly the same. I'm not going to tell you to avoid buying EA games or avoid buying games from companies, games that you enjoy. But unless some action is taken, this practice is going to continue for a long, long time. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.